Silence by Mackenzie. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about the things that matter." In The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas, Star Carter is born between two worlds. After Star witnesses her childhood friend Khalil be shot to death by a police officer, she was never the same. This traumatic event caused Star to be frozen in fear, and she did not have anyone to turn to. Eventually, the silence got too loud, and Star spoke for what matters to her: justice for Khalil. Star Carter is a 16-year-old black girl that lives in Garden Heights, a poor neighborhood with mostly black residents. She attends a mostly white school called Williamson Prep. The contrast between these two settings builds Star to create different mannerisms depending on which setting she is in. This leaves her confused and unable to find her true self. She has been through much loss, and her friends will never understand the pain she is feeling. Chris is Star's boyfriend. She met him at Williamson Prep. The two of them are economically opposites. Chris is rich, and Star is not. They both share the common interest of shoes, though. Kenya is a friend from Garden Heights. This is whom she attends the party with. Khalil is a friend of Star. They were close childhood friends before Star attended Williamson Prep. Khalil has changed since Star has left, and he has began dealing drugs and getting into the gangs. Maverick is Star's father. He owns a store in Garden Heights, and he loves his family and works hard to support them. He believes that he needs to improve Garden Heights and create a safer community. He is an ex-gang member and enemies with King, a gang boss in Garden Heights. Star and Kenya are planning to attend a party in Garden Heights. While Star is at the party, she is reunited with Khalil. At this party, they are on the dance floor and gunshots are fired. Star and Khalil flee the scene through a car and are pulled over because of a taillight. After the cop talks to Khalil and checks him for drugs, Khalil turns to Star and pulls out his hairbrush. At this movement, the cop pulls out a gun and opens fires. Star was overwhelmed with fear and emotion after Khalil's death. She was afraid and she did not know how to handle the situation. Star does not have anybody to look for support, but they did not have the understanding to her friends at school what she is going through, but they do not have any idea of the circumstances. Eventually, Haley snaps at her and says, "Seriously, after everything we've been through, you think I'm a racist, really?" Haley has made many racist remarks and will have no sensitivity towards this discrimination happening. Eventually, Star has had enough, and she begins advocating for justice of Khalil. She joins local riots and speaks her mind. Maverick has fear for his family and wants to keep them safe. Star's mom and dad argue nonstop about what the right decision is for the family. Maverick feels that it's his responsibility to improve Garden Heights, and her mother wants the family to be safe from all of the riots and violence. The jury fails to indict Officer Number 115, and this causes Garden Heights to be overrun by riots and protests. Star promises Khalil that she will never stay silent, and she will continue to fight against the injustice. At first, I saw Star as a teenager torn between two worlds. She felt as if she must change depending on the setting. In her poor, mostly black neighborhood, she changed her mannerisms to fit in. Star does the converse to fit into her wealthy, mostly white school. Learning about the racial stereotypes between black and white people was eye-opening. I never had to worry about my race affecting my chances of being shot, and Star explains early on that she was taught as a child. When I was 12, my parents had 2 talks with me, the one about the birds and the bees, and the one about what to do if a cop stopped me. This shows that even as children, minorities have been taught what to do when stopped by a cop. As a white person, I have not been taught this. I was aware about the stereotypes before, but it was a different feeling when connecting with Star and viewing the issues through her eyes. I learned about the feeling of loss and injustice while reading this book. I believe that Star Carter and I have many differences and some similarities. The main difference is race. Star is black and I am white. As an upper-middle-class white person, I have not dealt with the racial stereotypes that Star has had to deal with. Star went through multiple losses of people very close to her, and that affected her mind and attitudes towards the violence of Garden Heights. Star Carter became determined to advocate for the justice of Khalil and worked her hardest to fulfill her promise to him. I think that Star started as a confused teenager who did not know where she belonged, and after the traumatic incident of Khalil's death and almost being killed by a gang leader, she found something that she felt impelled to fight for: justice. I believe that the author wanted to send a message to people all over the world and emphasize on the stereotypes of black people and how the normalization of violence in black communities. I noticed that Star Carter only refers to the officer that killed Khalil as Officer Number 115. This shows how Star believes that it is not only one officer's fault, but it is the racial bias engraved into our police system and our whole country. The author is trying to show the readers the effect that racial bias has on innocent lives. Star represents her anger towards the society during her speech in front of the riot, saying, quote unquote, "Everybody wants to talk about the way Khalil died, but this isn't about how Khalil died. It's about the fact that he lived his life and it mattered. Khalil lived." Shortly after this speech, the crowd creates chaos, chanting, "Khalil lived." Overall, I believe that Star and I are similar in the way that we are determined to advocate for our beliefs. Star has been through many traumatic experiences, and she will fight for the justice of Khalil and the importance of the innocent life behind him. Star not only wants to bring justice to her people, but she wants the justice to continue through her people, and she wants her people to be heard. The people of Garden Heights were silent for so long, just like Martin Luther King Jr. explained. When you're silent about something, your life is not going to be successful. On page 443, Star explains, quote unquote, "Others are fighting too, even in the garden, where sometimes it feels like there's not a lot of worth fighting for. People are realizing and shouting and marching and demanding. They're not forgetting, and I think that's the most important part." You can hear how she enjoys the people fighting for what they believe in, because people will let silence overtake them and they will not be heard.